it's all about.
Yeah,
What the government's trying to do.
yes,
with
it's
community mental health.
big holiday week.
I saw one from one other county.
Oh,
Not
okay.
Tuesday.
But they're setting it to say they oppose what the government's trying to do to privatize it. Yeah,
I am not.
it's a good one.
Because my wife,
You know for a fact that if you grab it,
Oh, yeah, that's
you're
right.
in central profit, the price falls down.
No, it won't go down. Towns like that.
You what?
Well, that way I'm not splitting up anyway.
You're right, I always.
But, you know, that's.
Ready when you are.
Everybody's mics to be turned on. Already. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. You can stand for the pledge, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead with the roll call.
Commissioner Robbins.
Here.
Commissioner Walter.
Yeah.
Commissioner Buddick.
Brother.
Commissioner Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
Commissioner Alguier.
Yes.
Chairman Yoder.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Next up, we have approval of the agenda, any additions or deletions. Motion.
To the agenda as presented.
Second.
Supported. Discussion. Not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried 7-0. All right, next up, we are to public comment. Which public comment? Look like it, all right. Move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner, wish to give any comments?
I will, yes. In order to change community action agency. Their programs have been. So there are no adjustments for inflation. But we can rest assured that basic services or lawyer can be there. So we don't.
Any other commissioner comments? All right, if not, we will move on to our first action item. Government Finance Office Association, which is best known as GFOA, and we got Rebecca here that is going to present that to us. We'll do a little presentation and then we'll open up the floor for questions.
Okay,
The packet in front of you that she'll be kind of briefly talking about. She won't necessarily be going through those items from my understanding, but we'll just give a general overview of GFOA. And just a little background, Rebecca did reach out to me and just kind of brought this to my knowledge a little bit. And so I asked her to just present that to the board so everybody has the same information and general understanding of this, so.
okay. So yes, I live in Solon Township. And as Commissioner Yoder talked about, I'm going to do some prepared remarks here, and then I will take your questions. So I'm here to talk to you today.
Just your first and last name.
Oh, Rebecca Hendrick,
H-E-N.
and D-R-I-C-K.
Okay, and Rebecca is R-E-B-B.
R-E-B-E-C-C-A.
Thank you.
Rebecca, who are you representing? I'm sorry.
Myself, I live in Solon Township.
Oh, okay, good.
But you're part of the association?
Let me get there. I'll explain to you. Well, okay, so I'm here to talk about how I think you can improve your budget document in order for your constituents and stakeholders to better understand what you do as a county and how much it costs. I'm proposing that you use a model of a budget document that is advocated by Government Finance Officers Association, which represents public finance officials in the United States and Canada at the state or province levels and all local governments. They have 2,000 members, and they do lots of stuff to promote good financial management practices in government. GFOA uses this model to assess government's budget documents for receipt of their Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. Now, as I mentioned, I met with Mr. Dyer and Mr. Yoder yesterday, and Mr. Dyer knows the organization very well. Your finance director probably does as well. The GFOA website has lots of information about their 3 awards, recommended practices in all areas of state and local financial management. They do conferences. They have a really good review, government finance review for local governments, which is run by a really smart guy who I've known for a long time, and he does really good stuff, short articles on local governments. They also, GFOA also has a number of guides for smaller governments in the areas of capital improvement, debt management, revenue collection administration, designing a budget, operational budgeting, and much more. Now, let me give you a little, I'm sort of jumping ahead here, but let me give you a little background on myself. Why do I know so much about this stuff? I'm a retired professor of public administration from the University of Illinois, Chicago. My husband and I retired here to beautiful Leelanau County some years ago, a little while ago. My focus there in both teaching and research for 35 years was state and local government budgeting, public finance, and financial management. I was at UIC for 25 years, where I taught a budgeting course that required their Master of Public Administration, that was a required course for their Master of Public Administration program. I taught this stuff at the PhD level and conducted lots of research on all these topics. For the master's course, I required the students to assess a budget document from a local government in Illinois according to the GFOA criteria. Write a report to give to the government, and then do a presentation of the report in class, which was oftentimes attended by the local governments that they were working with. I found governments to do the project who wanted to receive the GFOA award, but had not yet received it. And I also wanted to make sure that I had a document that was able to be assessed from those governments. I didn't want students simply looking at a bunch of numbers and no real document. I counted the number of governments I did for this project before I retired, and over 200 governments participated in that project with me during my time teaching in this class, although some did it more than once. Prior to the 2024 election, I wanted to learn more about my new local governments in Leelanau County and local governments in Michigan in general. My expertise really is in local governments in Illinois, and specifically local governments in the Chicago metropolitan region. Looking at the Leelanau County website, I looked at your annual financial report, what you guys call the audits, the long list of spending items in the spreadsheets that you call your budget. To be honest, I really can't figure out what you do. And I can't really tell much about how much it costs you to do that either. So all of this is the basis for my recommendation that you begin to move towards doing things that improve your budget and citizens' understanding of Leelanau County government and its associated local governments and agencies. So no, I'm not with GFOA, but I know we actually had a number of PhD and master's students who worked with GFOA. I noticed that the last PhD student I published with also works for GFOA. So I know a whole lot about the organization. So that's, but really I'm coming from this as a citizen and trying to understand your finances, your financial management, some of the issues that you have. Now, the GFOA website has all kinds of information available about the award and the criteria they use to assess state and local government budgets. There are about 25 total criteria for the award. I originally chose 11 that I thought would be doable for Leelanau County in the short term. Some of those are pretty hard. Since my meeting with Mr. Dyer yesterday, I've added a 12th criteria on the capital budget, which focuses on budgeting for capital expenditures, which are equipment and infrastructure. The capital improvement plan, which I understand is you're going to be going over this afternoon, is an important first step in the capital budgeting process. I show these 12 criteria in the handout that I've made available to you, with the explanations of each of the criteria as shown on the GFOA website. I also want to mention that the 25 criteria in this list, or in GFOA's website, are essentially the same as the recommended budgeting practices that appear in the Michigan Department of Treasury Uniform Budget Manual for Local Governments, which is dated April 2024. Section 7 of that document is entitled Recommended Practices, and it has a subsection on the budget package which indicates that local government budget documents should have the same items as what is shown in the GFOA criteria on their website. I think having these items in your budget document would greatly improve the transparency of Leelanau County finances to citizens, and therefore improve your accountability to us, which are all things that we value. Meeting these criteria will also help you follow more sound financial policies and practices by focusing more on the big revenue and spending picture for the county, future events, and possibilities and future possibilities and opportunities as they might arise. It's a plan that allows, the budget should be a plan that allows local governments to steer the boat of the county rather than simply reacting to revenue and spending events as they happen. So a budget should be a plan for all your revenues, expenditures, and also your operations. Counties are complicated local governments relative to municipalities and townships. Counties have multi-layered tiers of relationships with other governments at the mission, operational, and financial levels. You have courts, you've got judges, you've got revenue collection and distribution for other local governments. You've got roads, lots of elected officials, combined health department with Benzie County, emergency services, which are, the county is party central for those things. The ice storm really got my attention this winter, and what the counties had to do to react, as well as the electrical companies. I'm surprised you guys got all these small little electrical companies. I'm sort of still wondering how that works up here. You have various connected authorities. You have a dam authority, a brownfield authority, other connected agencies, the Conservation District, the Council on Aging for many counties use that to deliver their senior services. Financially, however, local governments here in Michigan are not very complicated because the majority of their revenue is from property taxes, which is relatively easy to project in a budget. In 2024, Leelanau County got about 65% of its revenue from all local government funds from property taxes. It got another 23% of its revenue for state or federal government combined. Combine that together, that's about 80%. So revenues are not complicated, but it would be nice to know how the county projects its revenues. These kinds of things that should be explained in your budget. I see from your annual financial report that you don't have much capital expenditures. It's only about 2% of total local governments. Or rather of your total governmental expenditures. But I suspect there's more going on here, and I'm not sure what things go into your capital expenditures or how capital spending is thought about relative to your operations. In the meeting I had yesterday with Mr. Dyer, he was concerned about your decisions about capital spending, and I think having a complete picture of capital spending and how those needs are going to be addressed in the near future is good financial stewardship. So I think the GFOA criteria on capital budgeting was a good thing. I added that to the list that I sent yesterday. Leelanau County is also relatively unique compared to similar counties and other counties in Michigan. I forwarded to Mr. Dyer and Mr. Yoder, maybe you all received it, tables with financial, economic, and demographic data for Michigan's, some of those are for Michigan as a whole. But the data focuses on the counties of Antrim, Benzie, Charlevoix, Emmett, Manistee, and Grand Traverse. Grand Traverse is obviously much larger, but they're nearby. It's not a secret that Leelanau County is very wealthy in terms of median household income and property values. But one thing that really got my attention in those figures is the summertime population increase in Leelanau County. Northwest Networks did a study in 2022 that showed that Leelanau County's population increased by 126% in the summer. It increased from 26,630 to over 60,000. Grand Traverse's population only increased by 47%. Benzie increased by 121%, but Charlevoix increased by 72%. So I was wondering, what does this population increase do to Leelanau County spending? Does it affect the sheriff? Does it affect the courts, the roads? Probably, but The roads are operated through the Road Commission, which is a separate government from Leelanau County. If summertime population increase has an impact on Leelanau County spending, then it sucks that you guys can't tax tourists for the services that they use. Maybe the Road Commission gets more gasoline taxes from the state based on higher gas sales in the county. Maybe that helps, but these are all things that should be addressed in your budget, I think. Only 31 governments in Michigan have received the GFOA award for their budget, and only 4 of these are counties. However, 20 counties in Michigan have received the GFOA award for the annual comprehensive financial report. That's their audit. So it's a lot easier to receive that award. GFOA gives 3 or 4 awards. But those counties that have received the GFOA award for their annual financial report are Grand Traverse, Sheboygan, and Muskegon counties. And some of the things that goes in the comprehensive financial report that GFOA looks at for their award can also go in your budget. The 4 counties that received in Michigan that have received the GFOA budget award, I admit, are not great models for budgeting. Lapeer County is sort of close to Leelanau County in terms of the general fund amount, but it spends $32 million for community mental health and $18 million for other non-major governmental funds. Lapeer County also has a biennial budget, 3 times the population, and it cannot be downloaded as a single document, which is really frustrating. Ottawa County is much larger than Leelanau County in terms of population and budget size. It's got a lot of interesting detail. They have 11 commissioners. It's a lot. But it has a real nice picture of them. You know, I think you guys need a picture of you guys on your budget, you know. Livingston County is much larger than Leelanau County in terms of population and budget size. The budget document is 350 pages, which is way too long in my opinion. But you know, I think it would interest you to go to look at their budgets and their things like their organizational chart and the budget message. That's kind of one of the most important things I think that's in that GFOA document for you all to do in those criteria are the budget message. And I think that's maybe going to be one of the hardest for you to do for those criteria and the capital stuff, I think. However, the city of Cadillac has received the GFOA budget award for many years. Cadillac's population is about 10,000. Its expenditures for governmental funds is about 12 million. So it's really a little smaller than Leelanau County, but it really is a good document. And they've been doing it for a long time. They also have a 6-year capital improvement plan, which is 150 pages, but it's missing certain things like criteria for prioritizing their capital spending things. But City of Cadillac has a budget message, table of contents. I think, like I said, that I think would be interesting for you. I don't think the organizational chart. And so that's it. That's my case. For all these reasons, I would like to see you move towards a more formalized budget document with priorities, goals, and objectives and projections for revenues and expenditures, and as well as a capital improvement plan.
So question, you said Lapeer County is similar to us in tax revenue. They spend 32 million on how?
Community mental health, I don't know if it's a component unit or if it's a special revenue fund. It's their,
It has to be, like, we have $12 million for the whole year.
well, they're general, it's similar to you in the general fund amount. But then once you add the special revenue funds and all the governmental funds and the enterprise funds, you know, you're up to a lot of money. I don't know that community mental health may be an enterprise fund. I don't know. I'd have to.
It's got it.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at it, but to be honest, I don't remember.
First, could we change places for about 3 months?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
As part of your presentation, you made a comparison to a ship and steering a ship. And right now, we're a ship coming into the harbor at this particular stage. My question is, how much is really flexible enough at this stage with really a couple months until we're scheduled to approve our budget.
Yeah.
How fast can you move? I mean, you don't want to move so fast that you flip the ship either.
Right, to be honest, I don't know enough about how, we haven't been here, lived here that long to understand how fast you do your budget process, how it goes. I can sort of watch things online. I looked at a couple of videos of your budget last year. You were late last year with your budget, I believe. You were late doing it.
We had not a full-time administrator, a temporary administrator. Really, the budget has been on hold, I think. It's been running kind of a continuous budget for about 2 years. And so this is really the first time that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have been here, but it just hasn't been a lot of time as far as putting into ways to change. I mean, we've continued our same habits the past 2 years without much.
Yeah, I'm aware that you've had a number of, the changes in the financial management with the finance director and all this is going and hiring so that takes away things. But now that you have a county administrator, I think you could move. It depends on you all. How easily do you guys agree? Now all the municipalities and local governments, I looked at Chicago metropolitan area. I mean, there were 3 or 4 whose board members were suing each other. But, not much getting done in those governments. It doesn't strike me that you guys are like that.
Well, how fast disagreements among us. To me, it's breaks down into 2 versions. One is the structure, how much, and to me, I probably on this board, the structure part, we can probably come to terms with fairly quickly. And now, how much gets put in each pot, that might be a different.
I think you just start with the pots. What struck me is, I think in looking, I don't know what your departments are. I don't know how much you spend for those. I don't know what are your services. I couldn't tell what you guys do for emergency management. No, I couldn't. And it wasn't clear to me until, in fact, my girlfriend who's lived here forever said, well, the counties do roads. And I'm like, no, it's called the road commission. And it took me kind of a while to figure that out. And if that's in your, that kind of information is in your budget document, I think that goes a long way towards telling people what you do. And then you list those expenditures by revenues are not as important, but you list those expenditures by department, by service. What are the primary service areas in these departments? What are a little bit about the goals or objectives, a little bit about what services they provide? What are the expenditures in those departments?
This is very, very helpful information, but since our budget, we used to do our budget by October 1st or 12th. There's a date that we adhere to. The last couple of years, because we've been kind of in flux with administrators, we did go till November, perhaps December. But this sounds like a construct that we would work on for the next year.
Well, I think
Because we've got a couple months.
yeah, I think the real onus is going to be on Mr. Dyer. You're going to be the one who's doing it, or his staff, your staff, and the finance. I'm sorry, are you the finance director, Kathy? Yeah, so finance
Sounds like a
director.
2026 president.
Well, I guess this is the main reason I asked Rebecca to come, just the priorities that she has listed out in here, I think is something that I want the board to strive for, to be more transparent, that somebody goes online, they can pull up a lot of the information, but I see Commissioner Money has a question or got his hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, you talked about move towards a more formalized budget. Is there a form that you follow or that the GFOA has?
Yeah, well, okay, so if you look online, I have presented the criteria I have presented, with the exception of the capital budget. The criteria are presented in the order in which GFOA not expects, but usually sees, the order in which they usually see those items in the budget document. But again, I would encourage you to go look at the City of Cadillac's budget document. You know, it's, in fact, GFOA used to organize the criteria according to sort of service areas or objective areas, which, and then they switched that around. And now they present the criteria in the order in which they usually appear in the budget document.
So is this the criteria? you use
That's,
in that?
yeah, that's only 12 of the criteria. There's a total of 25 criteria that GFOA had. I picked out from those 25, I picked out those I thought could be done by Leelanau County in the near term. And then with the conversation yesterday with Mr. Dyer, I said, oh, let's do the capital budget and stuff too.
So this would be the outline or the criteria?
Yes.
that you-
Yeah.
I want to itemize it, but.
Yeah.
That we could start with, from my understanding,
Sorry?
that we could start out with. from my
Yes.
understanding, right?
Yeah.
Campbell?
So my understanding is this is somewhat in chronological order. Meaning how you.
Yeah, in terms of big picture down to small picture, yes, that's yeah, that's a good way to put it. You look at my criteria here. Yeah, because the last thing you sort of have, that's on there is, item 11 is charts and graphs.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of very specific. The biggest picture item that and to be honest, I think the thing that's most difficult for boards is items number 1 and 2, the priorities and the issues and the budget overview.
That's where you start.
Right. And if you look at the budget message, it might be instructive to look at the budget message that's for Lapeer County, Ottawa County, Livingston County, and city of Cadillac, to see what their budget messages look like, to see what's in there. Like, what are the kinds of things they put in there?
We already have a proposed budget in front of us without the message.
We used to provide you a message.
Well, the message notice should have particular things, is what they're asking.
Yeah, we used to do that. That's how you started your budget process.
Do you have any other questions, comments from commissioners? All right. Thank you. I think this is something that, yeah, we'll work with our administrator on, and I don't know, do you have any questions? or-
I guess what I'm not hearing Rebecca say is she's not saying we're spending our money improperly.
No,
She's not saying we approve our budget incorrectly. What I am hearing is that we can improve how we communicate that budget and your priorities to the public. I think that's really
Mhm.
the scope. The budget message goes a long way to that. How we have that, how we have the budget available online, and even as you indicate, just having it as a single document that can be downloaded, for example, perhaps as a PDF. A number of the, I've gone out and looked at a number of the municipalities that have won this award, as Rebecca indicates, and looked at the things that they do, and a lot of them have what I would characterize as a budget explanation, but a budget that briefly describes here's our priorities. It would have something along the lines of, because of a substantial increase in the amount of seasonal residents, not just visitors, but residents. Leelanau County spends something more on law enforcement because of the needs that those seasonal residents present to the public. That'd be one message. Maybe you won't agree with that. If you don't agree that that's really why we do that. But that's the kind of thing that can be communicated to the public. And just even a simple explanation that we do not pay for roads with your property taxes. That those are handled through the gas tax and the road commission. Just a couple sentences or a paragraph that describes that. Would be-
and a lot of counties do.
We have a special millage.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought you do. You do have a special.
It pays almost nothing compared to what a road commission spends on roads.
But that millage goes to the road commission.
It
Is
does.
that correct? See, that I wouldn't. could be. The other item in here that you guys are gonna wrestle with, I know, but it's good to start, at least slow, are the performance measures. So how do you know when your sheriff's doing a good job? How do you know when emergency management's doing a good job? Do you know how much more sheriff is costing you in the summer than you do in the winter? I think moving towards those kinds of performance measures will be very helpful for you operationally and budgetarily.
I did just look up the website for GFOA, and there's a lot of information there and a lot of learning opportunities.
Yes, and I meant to look at before I came, like I said, they had these small little guides called A Guide for Small Governments, which had, guide for budgeting, guide for CIP, guide for debt, couple others. And I think I have the one for CIP. I'm not sure they publish those anymore. I have a copy of the little guide for CIP, but for my students, but yeah, they do have a lot of good educational stuff.
And I think I've mentioned to you in reports that Kathy has pursued membership in the GFOA and has done already some of their basic, maybe Kathy, you can explain the exact courses that you've taken in that regard. Yes.
No, yeah. I am now a member of Michigan GFOA, and I'll be attending a seminar in September in Muskegon. And I'm also in your budget proposal, be over the next 2 years attending classes in county finance. That's a 3-course session, and it takes 2 years to do it. But if you take the first 2 successfully, the third one, they don't charge you for. So that's my goal. And I've got my staff doing the online courses with me that are available for non-members. But so right now I'm printing off some things for Administrator Dyer as well. So he has some of the things you mentioned for Michigan. So I am looking forward to this continuing education.
As I said, I think together we can add some of these things to final budget document that you enact in.
I anticipate might it also be a goal to have 2 people in your department make that,
Sure.
achieve that goal
We-
rather than one, it's always good to have a backup.
Certainly, Mike, I'm sure Mike would be amenable to considering that for sure.
And I think would be a worthwhile investment for the county.
And I would absolutely support that as well, for sure.
All right, you have any other follow-up questions? All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Robert, yeah, you know.
All right, next up, action item number 2, we got the review of the capital improvement program document. Hopefully everybody had a chance to go through that. I know the planning commission put quite a bit of work, and the planning department put quite a bit of work into creating this. Yeah, that's anything for anything you want to.
No, I actually would really would defer to Kathy and review of that. Prepared document. I don't know if you handed that up, Kathy.
No, I haven't. No.
Document that kind of summarizes that and a few additional items that are going to be on the decision regarding the budget.
Do you want to sit up here with me and have this next to you as well? Sure. Okay. This is a document that was started when Sean Cohen was your finance director, and I took over when he departed, and then Richard and I brought it forward in 24 for the 25 process. And it's a spreadsheet of everything that I have gleaned from department requests, from CIP, in year 1 and year 2. I did pick up a few in year 3, 4, because you'll see the CIP reprioritizes things a little differently than what you have shared with me. So where we have gone in the past with our budget process is at workshops, looked at the overview. You indicate to administration or to the finance director, thumbs up, thumbs down, need more information. I wasn't aware of that, just let us know where you're at. Also, I talked to Administrator Dyer about the organization of this document. Everyone organizes their thoughts differently. I've categorized it pretty much by who's more responsible, who's asking for this, who's making the request. So there's that to take into consideration, that we all organize our thoughts differently. So if you have a question about, I heard about this, where is it? I can share with you where it is on the document. Okay. So Administrator Dyer, did you want me to just walk through and?
Question first.
Yeah.
Did you take the existing capital improvement plan and add those to this list?
In
I just
your,
saw a couple, just check. that were
yes,
on there.
I picked up the 26 and the 27. I looked at those in the capital improvement plan. There are some in 28 that are on here because of department head requests. So there is a bit of a, and John and I, we discussed this yesterday about the CIP process, where that's a request of the planning department, planning commission. They prioritize as they prioritize things. They don't necessarily communicate with us. There's, I don't want to say a bad disconnect, but there is a slight disconnect, because I'm thinking of the chill tower out back here. We know it's in the 25 budget. In the CIP, it's in 3 years from now. So this is where we're doing cross-referencing, seeing where we can bring these things together and stay on track.
But I'm still trying to understand.
Yeah.
I see the sheriff's office request for a pole barn.
Okay,
It is in 25 and 26, and I don't see it on the list.
and the pole barn in the CIP is in year, I just have to get to those pages. I'm looking at the grid that they put in this document. And let's see. I saw a second pole barn in 28.
Okay, so what's
That-
in here doesn't necessarily match here.
Correct. I was, and that's why we're talking. How I picked up 2 years of CIP from here to see if it was here. But I also know in budget requests from department heads, such as buildings and grounds, the chill tower, it's in your budget for 25, but in here, in the CIP, it's 3 years out. So we're trying to bring all this around, find out your priorities, using the CIP as a tool, and also listening to your department heads and your elected in their requests. And that's what this document is. It's kind of a culmination of all of that. This is a living document. It's going to be in motion for the next few weeks. And this is where you can read through it and say, gosh, I read that in here, or I saw it in the CIP. So we're just going to try to bring all this together, find out your priorities.
So when does the group that does the CIP come communicate with us about what we would like in the CIP?
They really don't.
They really don't.
They really don't.
And that's a big flaw, I think.
Well, again, as I mentioned in a previous meeting, there is a process that permits you to take that process over. And the reaction was, that's kind of a lot of work and they do a good job of it. I think you might want to adopt a hybrid process, consider a hybrid process where they collect the items from the various departments and commissions that work in the county. They create a list of projects. They do the work to determine, recommendations regarding what they may cost or might cost in the future. And then they present that to you unprioritized, that you then prioritize as part of your budget process. So what Kathy has done, and I really applaud her for doing this the way it is presented. She's taken out of the CIP those things that we as an administration believe are either going to be, will be addressed in the 2025 budget already, or that we're recommending you adopt in as part of the 2026 budget. That does not mean that you can't consider those things like a second pole barn that the planning commission projected for 2028. You could consider it now in this budget, but really the question is which bite of the elephant are you going to take first? And we're recommending that the first bite that you take these are the things that finance and administration believe you can do now. That's not to say you can't add some of those other things in that second bite of the elephant and say, well, maybe we'd like to add this to our consideration as a project for the 2026 budget. So it's really just a question of how you, like I said, which bite of the elephant you're going to take first. And this is our first run through, and Kathy's done a very, very good job and some of the stuff you'll see down at the end is personal staffing, wages and benefits issues that are not really and would never be considered in the CIP. So this is a list of things that we know for sure you're going to need to work on and make a decision on for this budget process. And again, emphasize it for a third time. That doesn't mean you're limited to these things. You can add things that are on the CIP. You can add things that aren't even on the CIP. But as you work through this, I think you'll see these are the major points that based upon your statement of priorities, we started looking at. And again, add to or subtract it as you see fit.
So there was a hand, I don't know if you want to engage Perjury or not, but sorry.
It's up to you, really, but
It's up to the board to
To the
you
chair.
certainly have no
Recognize.
opposition.
Fine with me.
Well, we need our treasurer to stay up.
I'll grab another chair.
No. I just have one quick question. Who's on your CIP team?
I was planning commission.
It's only the planning commission.
Yes, it's only the planning commission, and that's determined by Michigan statute. And again, that statute says this board could replace the planning commission and do it themselves. There is a provision in the statute that permits that. I kind of would suggest a hybrid process where the planning commission provides information and you do the prioritization. I think that would make a whole lot more sense.
And does that include roads?
Excuse me?
Does that include roads? Does that plan process CIP include roads?
It really doesn't. No, it really doesn't, because we don't finance them directly. And even though we contribute a small amount of their budget, they determine how that's going to be used themselves.
The road commission is independently elected, so
Yeah,
Right.
my neighbor's a road commissioner.
how's your road?
It's private.
CIP in general is requests that were from different department heads. That's something that the planning department sends out to different departments requesting proposals, and then the planning commission goes through and grades these priorities based on the information that each department sent about a specific project. So these are the grades that the planning commission pretty much put forward based on the feedback they got from each project from the different departments. So, yeah, that's a simple explanation. Mr. Wessel?
Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because I don't know what we've got to plan with, because I don't know how much the basic program we're already committed, and I don't know what revenue we got coming in. So it's hard for me to even consider a list of capital improvement projects unless they're emergency. And not very many of these are emergency on our list. Are we gonna make cuts in the operating budget to pay for more capital improvement? Is the treasurer gonna tell us we have less money or more money than we think we do? So it's hard for me to do this assignment without knowing what we're got to work with.
Well, I did want you to have the list so that you could have a summary of everything that is in here. So you can start looking at those things. I know that revenue, is that on a different agenda for a future meeting?
Yeah,
I
But I
think
mean-
John was under that impression, weren't you?
yes. However, I mean, as it's currently stands to the adjusted, I mean, we're still using fund balance to balance operations without these items. Is that correct?
Correct. The only items that are on this list that are built in here are, the capital outlay for the sheriff is in here to increase his $15,000 capital outlay to 18,000 for vests, radar units and breathalyzers. He asked for 18, that is in here. So that number's here. And the jail also, they do the same thing. They buy vests and, you know, some equipment, and they just asked for a slight increase. And it went, oh, he just rolled it. I think he did. He rolled his number, so it's the same. And so those are built in. Then there are things that are not, everything on this list would have to be added to this budget as you choose them or indicate.
On the list that you provided.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And those that are not, so the 28 projects, you know, I mean, we're not even considering those yet.
So if I'm reading this right, we're gonna be adding almost 1.3 million.
I haven't put any final numbers on this list.
I'm just going by the number you have.
Yeah, you got a total. right?
But that actually is only Point Broadband, which would be funded by DTR. The dispatch council units, which is already in the 25 budget. That column you're looking at is 25. And so
Actually, it'd be a lot more.
it's anything in the estimated cost column that isn't already in 25 or 26. So you can see even just the equipment for the sheriff and EMS. I didn't put any totals in there, but it's well on its way to $1.5 million.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I thought these work sessions were not supposed to be live broadcast, and it looks like we're on live here.
Why not?
Why not? They just, we never have had them done, and I don't think it's part of our policy to have them on live.
I had constituents ask, and I reached out to Jim and Steve. I don't know why we wouldn't, and I
You have
don't,
a board motion that says special sessions, executive and regular, it's part of your rules.
It's our policy.
Because you don't do finance committee, any other committees and commissions live.
well, when we have our meeting next month, I will suggest a change to our rules of order that allow us, I think, transparency in how we budget and finance is critical.
No.
Fine, but
I mean, we're violating our own policy right now.
Pardon?
We're violating our own policies right now by doing this.
So I just, I'm not sure. It says what we will broadcast. I don't think it says what we won't.
I think checking with the clerk's office in the future would be a great opportunity for communication.
Mr. Algar?
So
this is a lot of work for the planning commission. I'm glad they do it instead of our having to do it. Really. But I think we need a hybrid because I haven't been on the commission as long as Commissioners Wessel and Bunnick, and Walters. But frankly, we don't have extra money. So we pretty much fund operations. We've got it. And my sense is every year we've got about $1 million we hold in abeyance to pay for the stuff that comes up, because things do come up every year. Tractors break, cars get crashed, cooling towers die. So it's like this, we've known for a year that we need to replace the cooling tower. So that'll go into that. But it's gonna take some teaching administrator down there to get us to conceive of more long-term projects, because the mindset has always been, we don't spend any money we don't have to spend. We just don't. We don't do extras. That's been the mindset. We cover expenses.
And
with
some of
tax
these are,
dollar, and we're very, very, very careful.
some of these are expenses that we need to take care of.
And there are things we always have to take care of. So I'm open to a more long-term planning process, and I'm really interested in how we're gonna do that. It makes sense. It's what every person, family, business, government should do. It's just that we don't have any extra money.
Well, if I could just interject, if
Go
it's
ahead,
all
yeah,
right.
I got a question then.
Okay, as John was stating too, some of these things are recurring. Like we always know, the medical examiner will come in the fall with their new number for their contract. So those things are on here so that we don't lose track of things that aren't in this budget yet. We know there'll be a slight increase. So, but you still have a medical examiner. That's not going to change. So there are routine things in here, such as soil conservation invoices for services. We just haven't got the final number projected for 26.
Early childhood.
Early childhood, you've got that. That has its own millage. You'll be discussing that. It's just sitting here so that we don't lose track of it in the process. Point broadband, we know that's going to be finished this year with DTR money. I hope it doesn't go into 26. It'd be nice if it could be done in 25. There's a few things for the board to consider just with regard to past practice, and maybe you want to reconsider veterans burial increase from 300 to a different dollar amount per internment of a veteran buried in the county. I think this year we've only interred one veteran, and 300 has been the normal number for a long time. I did reach out to Michael Ruff with Grand Traverse County Veterans Affairs, and he has some counties that are as much as 1,200 per internment. I don't think we've ever discussed it, but it was floated out there. Maybe the board should talk about that. Is it a huge thing? It is not, but it's important. We are reconstituting a rotation of copy machines. We got away from that for a few years. The administrative assistant, executive assistant is on board with keeping track of those. So we're looking at 2 copy machines. That's funded through your dupe fund. We charge each department for their copy use. I'm recommending that we also look at the charges per copy for to fund the dupe fund by department copy charge. It hasn't been adjusted since 2018. It would be helpful. Copiers are more expensive. Administrator Dyer said also because of, just history, looking, and it's a learning curve for all of us, we've always purchased our copiers. So the question does arise, should we be leasing? So maybe we look at it, and just evaluate it again. In the motor pool, the sheriff is asking for 4 patrol cars. It would be 3 scheduled replacements, which we're used to. We do this every year. We sell surplus vehicles. He's asking for 1 additional vehicle outside of the normal rotation of 3. And he's asking for a permanent assignment of the TNT truck to the Marine Division. It's in temporary assignment right now, but he's going to be presenting that he ask you for a reclassification of the TNT position to an SRO, School Resource Officer. He'll come to you with that request. I'm just putting it on the list so you kind of know what's coming.
What's TNT?
That's narcotics, Traverse Narcotics Team, yeah. And then EMS has said, gosh, if we're going to have a surplus patrol car, we wouldn't mind taking over one of the older ones. And don't strip all the material out of it, the radios and everything, because when you do, you leave holes in those cars. They're pretty much banged up, but they'd like to take it and get rid of their car, which is 165,000 miles. So that's kind of a cross-departmental request, and I picked that up in the narrative in this document. Administrator Dyer also has said that he's looking at enterprise as an option. I know that the boards previous have reviewed it. We're going to be looking at it again. I think we also should increase the mileage charge on our vehicles from 50 to 75 cents per mile under 80,000, and from 25 cents to 50 cents per mile for anything over 80,000. We typically sell our vehicles between 80 and 125,000 miles, I think is the rotation. But cars are more expensive to replace. So if we have to have money in that fund, this is how you get it. You charge by the mile. Now, the sheriff's equipment and the EMS equipment requests that are in your narrative, they're not built into the budget except for those 2 capital outlay items, is the sheriff will be asking for a duty weapon platform and accessories with potential trade-in on retired firearms. And this is the cost. He's estimating 54,000 plus ammunition of 15. Also,
What is that? A duty weapon?
platform, all new guns for the deputies to carry.
Over in Scotland.
He'll present. I'll let him explain. I'm just giving you the highlights. I know a little about a lot of things, but you got to get the experts in here to talk about it.
Okay.
Then we have communications projects where we have some upgrading to the, and I know the acronym NICE. Jen, NICE. What's the acronym?
Actually, I don't know.
Okay, it's the recording system for dispatch. They need a software update. So he's got a quote in here with WSI for 21,000. They also need to upgrade to our ArcGIS Pro to our current Flex GIS server. And this is something that also involves equalization. And so that's another 10. Now, I believe it, Chairman Yoder, you sit on emergency services regarding the radios.
Oh.
Someone else here?
As well.
Okay, and they're looking at the fact that our radio system countywide is going to either need re-encryption or we need a whole new radio system. We still have this year's payment to make and next year's payment to make. No, this year's payment. For all new radios for the county, it's $1 million. Now, that would be a lease agreement with, it's Motorola,
Yeah.
more than likely. They've got the corner on the market of this. We'll use their money, so it's not $1 million now, but it's been $276,000 a year. And it was a 10-year amortization, and the radios only lasted 7 years. It's like your Apple phone. They know what they're doing. Then AED replacement, that's normal, $5,000. And we replace these AED pads, they age out. This is a normal request. So that's not an unusual request. Then we have a broad group of furniture and fixture requests from Buildings and Grounds. And I believe some of that is mostly for the Buildings and Grounds office space, with the exception of a proposal to convert the employee lunchroom to an exercise room. He also has some requests for some additional IT devices and whatnot for his department, and that's reflected in another category just to help me keep organized. We do have department projects. The Register of Deeds, she works out of the automation fund, and she's going to present the plat map preservation. It's a 5-year project. She's going to tackle it $10,000 per year, I guess, for the next 5 years. She'll present. Equalization, I know we've talked about this a little bit. This is my note, that the mapping fund used to be under the directorship of the planning director. But planning doesn't do mapping anymore. Planning has relinquished mapping to equalization. So I'm wondering if the assignment of that fund should be put under Andrew Gier. So it's just who's in charge of that fund. That's just why I have it on the list, so we can talk about it and see if that makes sense. Equalization, they'd like a color scanner, $1,000. I mean, they've not asked for new equipment in some time, so I just put that on the list. The clerk's office has an ongoing vital statistics project. It was budgeted in 24, rolled to 25. It's ongoing. It's not new. Recycle, there's been talk about, and it's in the recycle budget, it rolled because it keeps rolling forward without any action on it. And that is regarding some additional lighting, electricity, cameras to recycle sites. And so that's rolling. Senior Services would like a new program for their produce program. They've been using the FDA program with the state of Michigan, and it's not really user-friendly to seniors. And they'd like to develop their own farmers market program. So that's a new program. That's on the list. Keep in mind that Drain Commissioner is in the pre-drain engineering of Schaumburg, Timberley, Little Glen, and Number 1 Drain, where the county will have an obligation to make their contribution to those drains if they come to fruition. Either it could be this year, could be next year, could be in 27, but keep it in mind, going forward, we have drains in process. And also you are aware, because of claims and accounts, that you front the engineering costs for all of those drains every year as they're being developed. And then Parks and Rec, we have an undetermined project, but it has funding setting in Fund 470. It has the earmark to be the match for the DNR grant for the Veronica Valley Walking Trail, should that come to fruition. There is a match in there, so there is $110,000 set aside that really hasn't got a project attached to it, but it's been earmarked. Former administrator, interim administrator Richard Lewis had us put money aside, $110,000. That came out of the general fund. That alone, you know, it caused me some concern. We don't generally do that on things that aren't actual projects yet, because that's general fund cash flow, which John and I work together on, and you have seen the ebb and flow where we're fat with money December, January, February, March, April, and then it tapers off in June, July. Then we climb again because John has started the collection with all the townships to get your revenue in again. So when you remove money from the general fund, you're removing money from our cash flow. And that's why putting the money out of the general fund to parks for an undetermined future project, it didn't shackle us, but it's like, yeah, we probably.
And it shackled the cash.
Yeah. Then there's some yellow boxes here. I need a little clarification from Buildings and Grounds, because I'm reading two different descriptions of things in these documents between the narrative of the Buildings and Grounds and the CIP, that perhaps when they reference sewer plant control for government center and water waste treatment, are we talking the same thing? I need to have clarification. I put it on here twice, but we'll ask, is it the same thing twice, or is it two different things? And they just happen to have the same dollar amount. Now the government center, I'm gonna ask about the platforms for the LEC. I believe those were built last fall. I think they found steel here on site and I think they built them on the roof over there. I have to ask the fellows if that did get done and I'll take it off the list. The government center chill tower and air handler. This is in your budget for 25 with an earmark to be funded by DTR up to $410,000. And if it's more, then we would make a different, reallocation or whatnot, but we're not that far. Administrator Dyer feels that this might be started in 25, but it'll be a 26. Yes.
Yeah, when you have that recommended 2025, shouldn't that say included 2025?
I can do that. This is a living document. We'll put included.
I just
Yep.
I would understand it better because
Yep.
it is, I believe all these items are included in 2025.
Okay. Yeah,
And then when you do 2026, can you say proposed?
sure.
Because I don't know that they're really recommended. It's what people have proposed.
I'm happy to make those changes.
So it's a little, I think it's a little different wording, but I understand it better.
I totally understand. Another thing about 25 is we have in the past been working toward the end of the fall, going into October, November, December. I can remember the jail dishwasher. It was proposed for the following year. We hadn't really spent the contingency money in the current year and they needed the dishwasher. So we just put it into the 25, that year's budget. So if you find something on here and you think, let's just get it done and get it done in 25, we certainly can consider that as well. The LEC jail humidification replacement, when interim administrator Lewis was here, he felt those could be bundled with the chill tower. I don't know where we're at. They were thinking it would be easier to have one engineer handle both projects. I think they're split now. I haven't touched base with Administrator Dyer on that, so we can talk about that later if they're two different projects. Buildings and Grounds has recommended a wastewater system study. Buildings and Grounds, and I found it in the CIP, are looking for a trailer mount generator. So I'm finding it in two different locations, in the recommended narrative of Buildings and Grounds and the CIP. So I just want to let you know, that's where I'm picking things up out of both documents.
Is that for outage?
Trailer mount generator, I would imagine that is so that if we have a failure of a generator somewhere, they can move one. Is that what your understanding is, Administrator Dyer?
Towers, etc.
Yeah. I'm on the next page. We have from a previous board I think 2 boards ago, they discarded the idea of a chill beam system for the whole courthouse and opted to go heat pump replacement over a number of years, so many per year, about 150,000. It's 7 to 10, depending on the size. I know there's small, medium, large. It's something that Administrator Dyer would work with Buildings and Grounds as to, are they on life support? Are they going to fail? Where are we at? And they try to make sure that the rotation of those heat pumps is not disruptive to the building. Now, IT, this is a bit of this is going to have things from different departments making requests that they would like additional iPads, a laptop. IT buys those, but they're be for a department use. The request came from Buildings and Grounds. They'd like iPads and another laptop. Buildings and Grounds also was looking for a Wi-Fi system upgrade. I believe in reading the narrative, it was to put Wi-Fi into our park system. I think they'd have to work with our IT department if that's something the board wants to entertain. Also some software, something super grok heavy. I think that's an AI.
Yeah.
Platform.
That's AI.
Okay, that's from Buildings and Grounds. I am getting into a list of things that are, Leanna Wilson, your IT tech, will come and talk in great detail about these items, which is And you've already addressed replacing safety net for your IT 24/7. RFPs are out. Administrator Dyer is shepherding that. I did leave a placeholder in her budget for $150,000 because that's what we currently are paying safety net, just so we have a holder. So it's not going to be a huge adjustment once we make that award. So that is a placeholder. She typically likes to replace 30 workstations per year. She's proposing that again. Then there's some additional software and things that I will have her speak to, because this is out of my wheelhouse regarding Adobe Acrobat, Rapid Recovery Systems, products called Dewpoint. She's also looking for Microsoft Office 365 licensing for all desktops in the entire campus. So, and I know Administrator Dyer is a techie. He likes this stuff, so he and Leanna will talk with you more about that. Now, some of these parks projects were leftovers from previous year. I know that these are always being discussed at Parks and Rec. I'm not saying I found them anywhere, except I just know that they're in the CIP. They've talked about it Parks and Rec. It's things for you all to consider, like the disc golf course, a short course at Miles Kimmerly, improving playground equipment. The gazebo refurbishment is still in the CIP. In the CIP is also replacing stairs with a ramp at Old Settlers, domestic water supply issues. That's a leftover. That could have been solved. I have to ask Buildings and Grounds about that. I'm not sure. Then you've got your trail, which is a DNR grant for Veronica Valley. I found in the CIP parking lot improvement for Veronica Valley. I found that in the CIP. And then this is a leftover from a previous board, a 40 horse with a bucket to replace an aging John Deere at Veronica Valley. They wanted 2 pieces of equipment in 25. The previous board approved 1. They bought it. So this just got kicked forward. And I will have to talk with Buildings and Grounds to see if they still want this, because you have a new director since this was all put in place. Then we left financial or other requests because BSNA or financial software is still being discussed. I left the exterior security cameras because that's always been in the CIP. And I put MMRMA RAP grant ? Because that's a security thing. You might get funding for it if that's something you want. And just a reminder that your D&W mechanical contract expires 12/31 of 25. Then
So
yeah,
O'Connor.
that's Gary O'Connor in D&W.
is he willing to continue?
It was 3 years.
That's the end of a 3-year contract.
Is
He wants to stay.
Does he?
I know that. Forever.
Not forever, but for the next 3 years, for sure.
And because of the services provided by that contract, I did leave the marker in that budget for that dollar amount, just so that it wouldn't disappear and come back.
Well, what's the current?
I think it's about 125,000.
a year?
I'll double check that number. I feel it's right. Then going through all the budget narratives of all the departments, I just made quick little line item synopsis about requests for personnel, staffing, wages, or benefit changes. And each of these departments will come, unless you don't want to, and you say, yeah, give it to them, or, you know, we just need to have dialogue so that they are recognized that they're asking. And I brought this up earlier, the reclass of a TNT deputy to a school resource officer. I know that at a previous meeting last month, there was an item about a Teamster 1 to a Teamster 2, secretary to an office manager, I believe. Marine, he wants to adjust his staffing level from 4 Marine deputies to 3 Marine deputies and a Marine supervisor. He's not asking to change the wage scale. He would just, if there was a Marine supervisor hired, they would be at the top. I believe is what I read in his narrative. The jail is requesting an increase in their overtime budget. They would like an additional 15,000. 1,500, excuse me. You're right, and it is 1,500. It's not a typo. It is 1,500. The elections budget is you have pre-approved staffing level, and we're restoring the funding to the 24 funding because you have a gubernatorial, a primary, a general in 26. So you have to have the staff for early voting and everything that goes with it. So we copied the 24 budget for 26. 25, it reduces because they only had 1 or 2 small elections. So when it's full blown though, if you expect, or you can't expect, if the county wants early voting here, everything goes as it did. That's an amp up. So that's restoring to what we spent in 24 for that election. Treasurer established, and it's a swap out. He wants to take his temporary office assistant to overtime. So that's
How
just
did
a
that-
neutral.
Are you getting rid of temporary offices?
You had 0 out.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So he's just saying, I'm gonna 0 out it's a swap, so it's
Yep.
neutral. Register of Deeds would like to request establishment of a temp office assistant line item and asking for 500. Drain Commissioner, this is a holdover. I have not spoken to him. I think we'll have a meeting with him tomorrow. And Administrator Dyer will ask him if this is a holdover from the previous Drain Commissioner. I don't know this Drain Commissioner's request, so we'll ask him tomorrow about staff help. Then childcare and probate, there's a request for probation officer, probate register, diversion counselor to go from hourly to salary. They're currently at 37.5 hours per week to 40. Then in buildings and grounds, over a 2-year period is how I'm interpreting the document I read. An added staff position to establish a deputy maintenance supervisor and referencing a person rather than creating a person. So I'm careful. We talk position, we don't talk people when we're here. But if that were to be true, it would be moving or reclassifying a Teamster position and reclassing a maintenance worker to parks maintenance manager. That would be a phase in 27. And that would be asking for a grade change from a 1 to a 2, I believe, because of the management aspect of it. And to hire an additional maintenance worker phasing in 27, which would be a Teamster grade 1. And also asking for increase in overtime. And then this is just a notation on this document that Administrator Dyer brought to our attention, and it's just that we don't overlook. Something that we'll adopt is that, and he'll present this regarding the governor's hard cap and our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. It's no cost. It's not a cost thing. It's just housekeeping. Is that fair, Jim? Administrator Dyer, excuse me, is that fair to say it's like a housekeeping thing?
I think that's fair.
Okay. Yes.
You're missing one whole section, and that is suggested from department heads on ways they could save reductions. We don't have any of that.
Well,
And
I could share with you, there were some voluntary reductions in some departments.
my point was,
Oh.
at last week's meeting, we did talk about the cost of doing business. And since I've been here 14 years, we've never considered how we might reduce anybody or consolidate anything. And I think we start with revenue, and then we start with some ways we can become more efficient. But I'm having trouble concentrating because I was called out by the clerk for not checking with her about live streaming. I have checked the rules of order. It does not prohibit streaming. It does not say just because we've always done it that way, it's against our rules of order. And I am offended that I was called to task because I asked our administrator and our administrative assistant to live stream this meeting because I wanted this meeting to be transparent. And I'm having trouble sitting here because it's the second meeting I've been here where the clerk, and I did find here, only members of the Board of Commissioners should be given the right to speak during any board except when called upon or when recorded. This is the second meeting that I've been called to task because I was doing something that the clerk's office didn't like. And I'm asking for a break because I'm upset. I'd like to take a 5-minute break.
All right, we have a break.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are we all right? That's okay.
So far, yeah, I mean, we're,
I think we need to
We-
click here.
yeah, we,
Yeah, yeah.
Not going anywhere, are you, John?
Excuse me.
How you doing?
Good. Did you have a nice wedding for your,
Oh, yeah.
was your daughter who got married?
Everything was great except for when I got up to the announcement, my daughter, losing my daughter again, stuff like that.
get to adjourn.
All right, our 5 minutes are up. We're gonna continue here. Mr. Bunny?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I was the one that brought it up about that. It wasn't the clerk. You know, but it's not on our agenda to have this live stream. Anytime we live stream it, it's been on our agenda. So, and it's been a regular tradition that we don't stream committee meetings, and we haven't, I know our last work session was not streamed. So, I mean, I think that it was a reasonable call to say that it should be being streamed, and it wasn't to call Commissioner Wessel to task. It was just something that I saw wasn't on the agenda and shouldn't happen. So that's, I mean, so I don't understand why, you know, nobody was directing it at him.
All right, Commissioner Robbins?
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I think it's good that we are streaming these meetings, but what's more disturbing is, you know, we're Lebanon County, we're supposed to be unique, but we sure in hell don't act in these meetings. And it's a little tiring to see people, I'm not gonna name anybody out, but making them remarks, chuckling. You know, we're meeting, let's be professional, let's get through budget, and let's be like we're supposed to be and knock off we're not the Kardashian show. I agree with Will, maybe we should, if we're gonna act like the Kardashians, maybe we should be live streaming. But I think we should be, and we need to act professional, knock off the eye contact and laughing.
Any other comments before we continue? All right.
We're just
We're
right,
finished with the,
we're right at the bottom,
Okay.
and it was just on opioid settlement. In the proposed budget, Leona Family Coordinating Council is asking for a contract extension for $64,000. I know that you all are looking at another presentation or other options. There is more cash, and I can give you your cash balance. So that's just a marker to let you know that there's a request for a renewal extension, but I also know you're looking at other options.
And that would be one of the things that I think we could include in our budget in brief document that we prepare at the end of this process. Indicate this is our projection for how many dollars in terms of over the next 18 years we're going to receive for opioid funds. Here's what we've already spent. You know, here's the process we're going to undertake. Once you decide on what that process is going to be, consider other uses of those funds. That would be something we would, I think, include in that document and communicate to our citizens.
So I would like to comment on. I used to be on the sub board for substance use disorder board. And we had fairly healthy from I can't even remember the name of the building, Cobo Hall.
That's why.
Well, that's been cut in half. The restrictions on using
This is the right one.
for substance abuse programs is really, really tight. And is best used by professionals in that field. And we have people who know how to navigate, know how to do programs. Their funding has been cut, but the need persists. So I hope we will keep in mind as those funds come in from the settlement, that they're well used by the professionals submitting program grants to us.
Just to
You have
clarify,
an opinion on that?
well, no, I don't have an opinion, just a clarifying statement. Cobo Hall tax, I mean, is our state
The
revenue.
liquor tax thing.
Yeah, it comes through our state revenue sharing tax. And it has gone up over 500,000,
It's almost 6.
yeah, almost 6 now. So we used to be self-funded. We got a lump sum payment early in my tenure, and we had been taking distributions from it. and allocating it to the general fund just for general operations. As that continues to grow, the reallocation is up to this board, but that funding is still coming in, to my knowledge,
It did
but,
get cut.
okay, so I'm just saying for the county, we've actually seen an increase, but,
So maybe it's been added to by the
To
things,
it.
but I want to keep in mind that
Is that revenue sharing?
those funds
Yeah, now it
are
comes into the
needed
general
and
fund
well
directly,
used by the
And you
professionals.
put in a number,
Manage those programs.
And one of the-
this number.
one of the advantages.
Yeah,
of
596.
Our
Yeah.
membership in the Michigan Association of Counties.
That's revenue
They
sharing
have a
is
full-time
sales
staff
tax.
person
4%.
that is well versed in that appropriate use of the opioid settlement funds. And that's the person that's going to be coming at the suggestion of Commissioner Campbell to give you a presentation of dealing with that. Some of them have competitive bidding processes, some of them use internal, for internal purposes. So a lot of information on that, but it's important, I mean, people are aware of the substantial amount of money that's coming to the county. And they want to know how it's going to be used, so.
You got it, Val?
Two separate subjects, and one, I hope we would have an open mind and not continue to do things because we've always done them. I'm looking for ideas rather than titles and past programs. But I'm not discounting at all. I think there's been no evaluation of it. I mean, we've never had a report, I don't know, I suppose other folks here probably maybe know where these dollars, what they've done in the community, and I'm sure they have done some good. I think our task is to use them as efficiently as we can to make sure that they're doing the best good. Is that a word, best good? I like it.
Sounds like an editor.
Yeah. I shouldn't ship on myself.
More good.
More good is even best. I harken back to something that our Treasurer Gallagher said earlier, because to me, it had weight. And it was just one statement, and then we kind of moved on. And what Treasurer Gallagher said was, we have been running a structural deficit. If you look at our expenditures, they've gone from 18 million or 15 million to 18 million, and revenues have not kept up. And that's just to run our basic programs. This harkens back to the thought of the order of that was presented to us from a resident who is very versed in budgets, which said you must begin, it's same must, but it's recommended you begin with an overall statement of what you're trying to do. And I would say if we're going to start with an overall statement of what we're going to do, and we're running a structural deficit, and we have a list, and this is not a wish list, the CIP. Many of these items on the CIP have to get done. Then you would start off with the conversation, look at staff, we're all in this together, and we don't have a bottomless pit out here. So everyone requesting more employees, more overtime, more projects. We need to accomplish these items on the CIP that are screaming at us because they're structural, they're infrastructure in nature. We need to put those at the top of the list. And the requests for budget increases for things that I'm sure are needed within a department should not, and we can't give them the same priority as our cooling tower, anyways, we're working backwards, and I think at some point we have to give that message that no, we have a very tight budget this year. I know I'm the budget guy, I'm the budget hawk, but I really believe that, and the more numbers I see and the more I hear from our treasurer, I believe this to be true. So it's gotta, we have to lend that importance to the conversation. To help people to understand that when we make these tough decisions, it's not because our elected officials and our department heads don't have good projects and projects that would help the county. It's that we have to prioritize in order not to not to continue the structural deficit that we.
Rollins?
I agree with, Alan. You know, look at certain things here, like, I know you're on the Parks Board. You know, 4 years ago, when I was on the Parks Board, we're still talking about the same projects here, just 4 years later. And, but what we really need to look at is what's unique about this budget here is important about this budget is it's gonna set the groundwork, because we're here for 4 years now. Before, it's always been a 2-year turnaround. You didn't know who was gonna be sitting on this board. So we have 3 years. We have the opportunity to put this together between our finance department and treasurer here. It's great seeing you two sitting together, helping us out. I would hope that maybe down the road, you guys can have weekly, bi-weekly meetings and network together and bring the facts and the numbers to us. So like I said, this budget is really probably the most important budget this county's ever seen, because we are here for 3 more years and we can set the tone for the future board ahead of us.
All right, so just thank you for putting this together. And I guess what I'm gonna request for administrator and treasurer and the finance director, I think the next thing, to Commissioner Wessel's point early on, the next meeting should be based on revenues, where we can start planning out, because I don't think we can go through this right today and start prioritizing this. I think it was a good educational that she gave, that our finance director gave to us. Thank you. Because I think it gives us a good idea of what's coming, what's needed, and what's important as we go through this budget. I guess what I would like to request is next week have our treasurer and our finance director go through our revenues and start through that process, so then we can keep going through this process and then going through departments and figure out how we want to prioritize some of this stuff. But that'd be my recommendation, at least, based off of what you've just given us here. And it gives us a week to kind of stew on this and kind of figure out what do we want to see, type of thing, and where do we get the questions we want to know, and some of the, and maybe dig in personally and find out more information about some of these projects, I guess. So unless anybody has objections to that.
No, we need revenue.
Commissioner Money?
Yeah, I guess I would like us to think about, what they said, as far as, I like the idea of revenue first, and I'm for that, but I also want us to look at the $150,000 we've spent for, I would say, the last probably 6 years on the furnaces, and look at that, try to plan to replace with a more, a more efficient, better unit, and not be spending $150,000 a year on furnaces to be replaced, because it usually ends up to be that or more. I also, I would like you to read about reclassifying the TNT deputy. I know that the sheriff has always had his officers stop at the schools and try to have lunch with the students. And he's done that for the road patrol since he's been here. And the way he talks about the TNT, it's not needed anymore. And so maybe that was started with a grant from the state. So maybe it's time that we can look at whether that's needed or not. And that could be a huge savings. And then, we should look at the idea that they've given every person an extra 5 hours now to work. So adding new people at this time, because I'm not sure that they're using that properly, or maybe we could use it better, that extra 5 hours a week. And we wouldn't have to add all these people that they're asking for. I just want us to think about that, because I've been looking at it and reading through these things. You know, and I think that we have some opportunities here that we could really work the budget to be much more efficient. So, I'm gonna look into this, you know, the GOFA or whatever she talked about, but I think that, you know, that I like the idea of having a message of doing this, so I just want us to think about it, and I'm glad we'll be looking at revenue next week, or at our next meeting.
You know what, just have a question. When we go from 37.5 to 40 hours, how do they get, are you talking about 5 hours each pay period?
Yeah, no, it's 40 hours a week.
Yeah, so it's
Some-
every
You want
day.
They were working on 35, so it's 5 hours more a week.
Oh, I thought there were 37.5.
No.
Thank you. I needed to understand that. I thought they were working 37. Jesus,
I gave some, but I don't, majority for 35, I believe, so.
okay.
I think we're kind of working ourselves toward number one on that list, which is budget overview of priorities. One of our priorities might be to hold our staffing levels at their current. If you want to adjust within them, do things like that, but to at least be neutral as opposed to increasing staffing in this particular budget year. Now, I understand there's one part of this A plus B that we don't have, and that's the revenue. Although we're pretty close, we got a budget there. I mean, there may be some changes there. I would blend my thoughts more towards an overall statement rather than going through department by department. And saying, well, we like this department, so, okay, or we don't like that department, so we're not going to, and just a generalized statement. Because frankly, these departments have been established long before we've been around. And everyone, I don't think there's been anything drastically changed within the responsibilities of our departments.
Mr. Westbrook?
I could get behind no total addition of staff, but I do think we have to sometimes take from some departments to put to other departments because needs over 20 or 30 years change. And I don't, there may be something that in this office that much more complicated than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So it's hard to do it because we've got a lot of silence. But collectively, I think we look at our resources and say, we're not going to add to the number of employees, but we're going to be open to changing some, at least in a long-term plan.
I appreciate you bringing that up about adding, because that's something that's, yeah, I've been wanting to bring up as well, because I feel like, and I don't know if that's something we're working with our administrator on, about adding to employees or whatever, until we get through this budget and figure out what we want for 2026 and beyond. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is something that, yeah, I feel like we need to send the message out that we want to, yeah, keep things as they are. We're not breaking, and let's work this year out and budget for next year and the years to come.
I will hope that we work on actual facts and needs and not on our preconception of some grand statement we'd like to make. So I want to listen to people and what's going on and what our goal has to be, that we serve our residents. I think that has to be our overriding goal, not edicts that we throw out. What do we need to serve our residents? And I'm very willing to focus on keeping costs down.
All right, do we have any other? Yes, go ahead.
There were a few departments who voluntarily reduced their overtime line items, and I can put a little synopsis together on that, where they knew the reflection early on this year in building safety was moving the 35 hours to 40, and we totally reduced their overtime in response to that. So it was reflective. And I know going forward for next week, this is for you to marinate on. And please tell me if you don't understand my notes, or if I know we have some questions and we'll get some answers. And I will always have an updated draft date at the top. And Administrator Dyer and I talked about everyone organizes themselves differently. You might just stack them up in your notebook or replace it, however you do. But I will always have the current version dated at the top, so you know where we're at. And also with regard to marinating on things, because John and I were looking at page 1 of 7. If we were just to round the numbers right now, so you can walk out the door with something in your head, is that your property tax, and this is based on this year's taxable value. We don't know the future taxable value. We can guesstimate, but we round it $14 million. That's your property tax revenue. This budget, with just a few things from this sheet embedded in it, is at 17.5. So there's $3.5 million that we obtain from other sources. Right now, the other sources that have been plugged in, that John and other departments, because there are many departments that contribute to revenue. It's not just the treasurer's office. They have put their numbers in here. And to balance you, we're using $300,000 of fund balance, just where we stand now. So that's for you to marinate on, so you have some reference.
That $17 million budget also includes those department budgets that are paid for by fees.
This is
No,
just
general fund
This is
only,
General fund only.
general fund only.
None of the building safety.
No,
No.
those are enterprise funds, standalone.
Well, that's a dreary thought.
Well,
$3 million behind.
the revenue stream, though, that we have does reflect their contribution to the general fund for the services that we all provide for them. Like John's office, my office, you all, your
But
expenditures.
does that include the wage increase?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
To the
you know, that
law enforcement.
the 3%.
Those are not in here yet.
Right.
No,
So that's gonna jump
Did-
up quite a bit.
you just ratified that last week.
So maybe at our next meeting. could
So you're positive.
I can't get this done by next Tuesday, but I hope to have your budget amendments done in September if everything goes well.
And then another thing I'd like, to the points that Commissioner Bunny brought up, maybe get some of those answers as well, when we go through these items, that, get some answers and, where we're headed with this background information, work with our administrator, to get some of the information.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would, when I mentioned the 150,000 for the furnaces, I would like us to try to set up a plan to come up with the $3 million, the last time they estimated it, to redo the heating system. So, and I'm sure that's increased probably by 50% now,
We talked about that and decided we just go with heat pumps.
Right.
So we have to have another,
Right.
We punted.
we have to reevaluate that decision.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
If we can, if it's up to this board, they're willing to plan it, I think then we can look at the EPR funds going, towards that or something every year, so that eventually we get there, so we're not borrowing money to do it.
All right, any follow-up questions for our finance director or treasurer? Is there anything you guys want to add?
Just if you need more information, please ask, and I'm happy to shuttle it out to you. You'll all get it. And I'll work on clarifying some of the questions that came out of this review.
Next week for our presentation, I'm working with IT so that we can look at the dashboard together, understand what the state has been reporting based on our financials and how we measure up. Because there's some statistical data in that. And drill through that, and then also bring up the general ledger so that we're able to run real-time reports and real figures for all the questions. So, be a little different presentation than normal.
Thank you. You have any follow-up?
No, I think I have a clear understanding of what you want to see at your next meeting, and we'll make sure that you get that. It's possible, and to Commissioner Campbell's comment, it's possible that an accurate projection of revenue reduce what appears to be now a structural deficit in the budget. Possible that your actual revenue really would not necessitate a fund balance transfer if we had a really much better handle on that than we have had up to this point. Find out.
All right, thank you. Move on to public comment. Rollins?
Ones are on finance, we went back in June, they passed that trial 90-day period for safety on the vehicle. And I didn't want to wait till September because we're getting close to that 90 days. So what I'd like to see is, should I wait until the 90 days or halfway point? I'd like to know the actual cost, what it's costing us, the mileage, and let us know where we're at, because I think that's probably a pretty expensive item we're paying right now.
I have a meeting scheduled with regarding that issue. I think it's next Wednesday.
And one more thing I thought of too, I don't know if it can be done between HR and finance on this MERS, this early, people behind years. I don't know if we can, because I've been talking, I got to call into Tony, I want to talk to him, but I was approached by a former HR person at a larger county. She watched our meeting, and is it possible to do some analysis, take a dummy employee of so many years, pay in, and because I do feel from what I was told, yes, it does sound like it's neutral now. Down the road, they live long enough, it is a cost to the county. And if we start getting more people retired, which we are, I mean, at some point, not with this board, but down the road, it could be a big cost to the county.
One of the things that you really take a look at from that is how you're funding on what level, what percentage are you funded? And as long as you're maintaining that, that's a good sign that those retirement service purchase credits are not impacting you negatively, particularly if you're fairly consistent with the numbers, the dollars that you're paying into it. But if you're seeing a downturn, that is an indication that perhaps those are making a difference. That's a good point.
Just, Jim, the Housing North reports, have you contacted them? Are they going to provide us those reports?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think, and we were talking about the housing, the deficit, and I understood what you're saying about the revenue. The issue then becomes the CIP projects that really haven't yet inserted in. So we might be able to eliminate the 300,000, but then you lose a year of progress needed on projects that we can't lose a year of progress on. So eventually we're going to have to plug that into the formula so that and that's a discussion here, 1/7 of that discussion, but I'll bet you that we would come up with pretty close to the same projects that are not optional, but required. And I don't know, as far as the whole clerk discussion, I have appreciated the history provided. I don't know if there needs to be a better way of communicating that for the clerk or deputy clerk to provide us information if she hasn't, But I have appreciated, and I know it's helped this board in certain times, provide a history that goes beyond even Ty's tenure.
Will's longer than me.
Well, okay, but even Will's tenure. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? All right, I guess just based on the discussion that was held earlier today about streaming, I would like to request our administrator to even look at, because I think it is beneficial to the public and, you know, to stream it. So whatever that looks like to make that happen, I would like for, yeah, our administrator or whoever, clerk, whatever, to look into that, see if we can make that happen, because I think it is beneficial to the public to do that. If that's something we have to change, policy, or if that's just maybe that's something we've never done and now continue to do it, I think that'd be wise. So I would like to request that. So that's we're adjourned.